Welcome, everyone, to Tech Allies, the conversation, a podcast where we sit down with today's technology leaders for real discussions about the people behind the roles, the work that matters to them, and the impact they're making today. I'm your host, Billy Mitchell, and on today's episode, we go behind the title of Patrick Benoit, EVP and Chief Information Security Officer at Vast Bank. At Tech Allies, we believe in authentic connection, collaboration, and giving back. And today's guest embodies all of that. Patrick, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Likewise, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. Karen and Trisha both speak very highly of you. As a reminder to you, as well as our guests watching, we're going to dive into three primary topics. Number one, we want to get to know you, your personal journey, a bit of how you got to where you're at. Number two, we'd like to discuss where you're spending most of your time, what's important to you, and what are some of those projects you might be working on. And then number three, the impact and the future of the tech industry as a whole, obviously tying that all into our time and experience with Tech Allies, which, as you know already, and I know I have experienced, is a wonderful organization. So all that to get us kicked off, I would love for you just to maybe take the next 60, 120 seconds and share a little bit about you, your background, and what you're up to.
Sure. So it's been a long and adventurous journey over the years, many years, starting out obviously in the military, and then cutting my teeth in technology before there was really technology in the military, and then eventually moving on to various industry roles in software development first, infrastructure management and operations. Project management, service management, IT outsource leadership and security and various things like that. Lots of name brands, Dell Services, Experian, CBRE, Brinks, and now Vast Bank. So security's been the focus and passion for probably the last 10 or 15 years, although I owned security for many years before that. It was an ownership under a larger title like, VP IT or CIO kind of thing like that. And so I decided to focus on it and be the primary area since then. Other than that, man, I stay busy just doing tons of other stuff, keeping track of my family and enjoying Oklahoma.
Wonderful. That's awesome. I know family can keep you busy. It's spring break for us right now. I've got two boys. My mom just came into town, so things are really hectic all around here. So that's a full-time job in itself. That's good, Patrick. I appreciate that. How long were you in the military?
Almost 7 years. Started out them enlisted, and they had me humping ammo as a cannon crewman in the field artillery for several years, and then got the opportunity to go to officer candidate school, and they put me back in the artillery for a while as a recon survey officer, so learned to do surveying, and then forward observer and fire support officer and things like that, and then eventually figured out as I was nearing the end of my time that I needed a career outside the military, and there was not much demand for folks that knew how to, run large artillery pieces. So I branch transferred to finance to get something different that'll get me in the door.
Yeah, I can understand that. You don't see a lot of that going around town for sure. No. But that's good. Well, thanks for your service. I really do appreciate that.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching our conversation today. We want to take a moment to recognize one of our partners that has made this possible. At Tech Allies, everything we do is centered around relationships, connecting the right people, fostering meaningful conversations, and creating opportunities for collaboration and growth. Whether it's helping companies find talent, supporting new initiatives, or building strategic partnerships, strong communication is always at the core. That's why we're excited to partner with Zoom. Zoom is an all-in-one AI-first communications and collaboration platform that empowers people to connect and get work done from anywhere. With reliable video meetings, chat, phone, and contact center capabilities, all integrated into a unified workplace platform, Zoom makes it easy for organizations to streamline communication and enhance productivity. We're grateful for Zoom's partnership with Tech Allies and their support of this podcast. Now let's get back to Billy and our incredible guest as they continue their conversation.
That's probably actually going to play quite a bit into the next question I've got for you as well, your day-to-day work. What early experiences have really shaped how you lead today?
So I think a lot of it, the shaping of leadership has come primarily from an original understanding and learning of the primary leadership style up until the last, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 years, whatever, pick a number, but which was command and control. I say, Billy, go do it. Billy, you go do it. And if I ask you why it didn't get done, you tell me why it didn't get done. And that's it, command and control. In an emergency situation, that's still applicable. I mean, if the building's on fire, I say, Billy, leave the building. I don't have time to explain. Just leave the building. And that's a completely appropriate leadership style in those kind of situations. But for most situations, the leadership style has evolved to be more of in the trust and inspire model, which Stephen R. Covey Jr. did some books on that. And in that case, I've got to build trust with you. It's got to be both ways. If you trust me, but I don't trust you, it won't work, and vice versa. So you've got to build two-way trust. And then I have to inspire you that the vision and the goals and the strategy that we're approaching is something worthwhile to you. Why does it matter to you? It sounds like a lot of touchy-feely kind of stuff going on there, but that's really what makes leadership work nowadays is that right side brain leadership. Left side brain, great in emergency. Right side brain is how we get people to get more productive and get things done.
Yeah, I've always found as well when building that trust and relationship, it creates a partnership regardless of who's leading. There's a partnership in a shared vision or shared outcome that you're working towards. I think is very, very helpful as well.
Well, Mr. Covey talks about two sides to that trust coin. Is like, if I want to get, I need a surgery done or something like that, I may trust Billy implicitly as a good friend. He's trustworthy, he's ethical, he knows everything, he's going to do everything he says, he commitment. That's one aspect of trust. But the other aspect,
don't trust me to do the surgery.
Yeah, he's not capable. So you got to have both to create that trust. So you've got to see and prove to your teams that you have that trustworthy character, and you can extend to them that trust because of their character. But then you also have to extend to them a trust based on, what the heck you're doing from an SME point of view, and you get from them the same thing. They have to prove that they know what they're doing from an SME point of view. So it takes two pieces.
Yeah, I like that. That's really well said, and I appreciate that. So when thinking about your leadership and the history you have taken to get to where you're at, do you have either one or a couple examples of something that you've had to learn the hard way that has shaped you to be a better leader today?
Sure. I mean, early on, one of the big ones I learned is early on, early 20s or whatever, I would see a leader do something or make a decision, and I at least had the presence of mind to say to myself, that looks wrong, but you don't know all the pieces. You don't know all the information. So it's probably okay, but you don't know all the information. So wait till you can see more of what's going on. What I found over time is that was kind of true. There was more information to know, but in the end, sometimes it was just a bad decision. And so, it's great to question those things, but it's also great to get all of the information to be able to understand what that is. And that's where that leadership play of trust and trustworthiness comes in to some degree. I always tout the book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, because it's such four simple agreements that are so important. And I try and share with my team and everybody. And that number one is have the highest integrity, have impeccable integrity. So you always have to tell the truth and tell everything you can. That doesn't mean you have to tell everything. It just means you have to tell everything you can. And if you can't tell somebody something, you just tell them, I can't share that with you right now. That's okay. But then second is nothing is personal. So, if you get up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning, you come in and you want to start yelling at me for some reason, I have every right to say, "Oh, time out, Billy. Let's back that up, and maybe you need to take a breath, and we can do this some other time." But I also have to understand it's not about me at that point. That's Billy's problem. So it's not personal. The third is never make assumptions. And I make the distinction between an assumption and an informed decision or an informed observation. Gather the information, get all the information you can in the time you have to do that, and then make a decision based on that information. But don't just walk into it with your own confirmation bias and say, this is what it is. That's an assumption. That never goes well. And the last is always do your best. If you're always doing your best as a leader and you're on my team, how can I fault you for that? That doesn't mean that you're in the right job. It doesn't mean that, you're trained properly for it. It doesn't mean that I've given you the tools that you need to do the job successfully. But those are all things that I have to recognize and rectify.
Yeah, that's really good. There's a lot of lessons that you dropped there that I feel like I've been trying to teach my kids recently. And one of those happened at practice. There was an event that happened. It really made my son upset. And I had the lesson of, listen, you can't control what other people do, but you can control how you respond, right? And that's your focus. And in fact, trying to control what other people do is only going to get you in more trouble. So focus just on you. But it's a good lesson there for sure.
Cool.
So I would imagine in your leadership role, you've got a lot of people who work with you, work under you, follow you, as well, just in your sphere of influence, who maybe you're mentoring in some level or capacity. So when you think about that sphere, what are some of the things that you hope those individuals experience through the time that they have with you, either that they might take with them or just during that time that they're spending that time with you?
Yeah, and I do love the phraseology to use the term. And for me, it's the proper term to work with these people. All ships rise on the same tide. I can't be successful unless the team's successful. Nothing that I do is meaningful except through the team that's going on. So in that, what I want them to take from it is that, legacy, if you will, is that I was always there to try and help them. So I'm always asking what I can do to help or to make things easier, to remove roadblocks or whatever. That's a big deal. That's part of that attitude of service leadership, which service leadership became kind of a cliche term for a long time, but it really is true. If I don't feel like if I'm not serving someone or something that I'm doing anything of value. So there's that, and I want them to be able to say that, I was always looking out for their best interest. That doesn't mean they always got what they wanted. It doesn't mean that they, always got the big raise or always got the cool bonus or the neat job or whatever. But I always explained to them, the rationale behind what was happening, and then I was clear and transparent and honest with them about what was going on. Those are tough decisions sometimes, but they're they're discussions sometimes, but they're discussions that you need to have, and you shouldn't shy away from them. And you should be willing to admit your vulnerability in mistakes that you might make to them too. The idea of this fail fast is an interesting idea, but we don't want to fail fast if we don't have to. What we want to do is we want to act fast. We want to accomplish as fast as we can with the given information. And if it turns into it didn't work out the way we expected it to, well, then figure out how to change that. Ask Colonel Sanders about how many times he had to go make a sale before he actually sold something. So that whole idea of being part of the team and being in the boat rowing together, again, another kind of cliche saying, but that's really what it's all about. It's all about the team.
Yeah, I love that. And the servant leadership is a big topic for me in my life as well. And really the way I think about it is, what do I need to do in order for you? What do I need to do and help you in order for you to be able to perform the best in your role, right? What distractions can I remove? What support can I provide? It's also funny is, speaking about failure, and fail fast. I love to say that I like to fail forward, because at least I'm making forward progress, right?
Right.
I'm 5'6", and as long as I can go that much further, then we're in a good spot, But failing that's that's actually another good lesson. You really learn a whole lot more when you fail than when you're succeeding. And I've just this is a very real one for me right now, and I love it.
If you think about that idea of, and we relate it in cybersecurity all the time, that Hackers only have to be right once.
Yeah,
We have to be right
that's
all
true.
the time to defend. And so that's
Yeah,
kind of the same thing in that what do you learn if you succeed on the first try? You learned one way, that's it.
yeah,
But you don't
yeah.
know anything about the variables or the other circumstances that could cause that not to work.
Right.
So, yeah, sometimes you learn a lot more failing than you do succeeding.
For sure. Absolutely. I love it. So when you think about the work you're doing today, and you can think of it more generally if you'd like, but what are some of the things you're really focused on building or promoting and pushing forward within the organization or just within the industry?
So, I mean, I kind of look at the role, the CISO role, as having some, just a few primary focuses if you generalize to a larger strategic position. One is we have to be able to assess where we are. And I'll take a step back and say, I have challenged everybody over the last probably 20 or 30 years to convince me in something that we do in life that's not gap analysis. And I can't find anybody that can. So it's the same thing. So as a CISO, we have a lot of work around assessing where we are. What do we have? What are our defenses? What are our controls in place? What's the risk? What's the this? What's the that? So that's an endless job too, because the environment's ever changing. And it's changing because you have people involved. It's always changing. You have people involved that are in your organization, and you have people involved outside of your organization. So you're always assessing, where there might be risk, where there might be gaps, where there might be things you can improve. The second is, where are you trying to get to? That's the gap analysis. I mean, it's great to say that we want to take a maturity assessment on a 5-point scale and we want to be a 5. It's unrealistic, but it's a goal. So, I think more realistic goals about where you want to go are better. If I want to make a drive from Los Angeles to New York City, I'm probably not going to, well, now we have mapping, but disregard that. I'm probably not going to just get on the road and start driving to New York City. I'm going to look at intermediate points because now I need stop points. I can't drive for 30 hours and so on and so forth. And I think that's the way we need to approach this goal too is, what's my immediate goal? What's my, next term goal? What's my long-term goal kind of thing? And then the rest is how the heck do we get there? And that's where the executives really kind of make a lot of their bread and butter. There's plenty of stuff out there that will tell you how to do assessment. And you can get external agencies there. There's plenty of stuff out there that will tell you, here's where you should be going. Best practice, good practice, however you want to phrase it. The hard part is now, how do I take what we have and what we want to get to and the resources we have in people, processes, and technology, or if you look at it from the project point of view in, scope, resource, and time budget kind of thing.
Right.
And how do you balance those things out to get the biggest value for your dollar? And that's, to me, where the executives really come into play is how do they make that work? Now, that's all that planning side of it. Now you've got all that. The flip side is operations. And now how do you get that executed? You have a plan in place, but how do you keep it on track and how do you get it executed in time on budget?
Yeah. Yeah. The integration or implementation of the strategy is sometimes more valuable than the strategy. Otherwise, it just sits on the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's good. And I appreciate you sharing and kind of getting a little bit of insight behind the scenes for you. And as a form of transition into talking about TechAllies and your time and experience with them, obviously we've been talking about being a leader as well as the teams around us who we're partnered with. Another important element of that is mentors, mentees, and networking and peer-to-peer groups and helping each other. So that being said, the second component to that is also the opening doors for other people, right? Both the younger generation as well, just in that networking component. So when you think about your career just as a whole, do you have any examples or stories to share with us about some people who may have opened a door for you that really helped you along in your way that stood out?
Oh, sure. I mean, I have a really, really close friend who it was probably 10 or 15 years ago that I was thinking about this focus transition to be more directly in cybersecurity with the actual titles in cybersecurity. And I went to him, and he was very, very helpful. And here's the things as I was trying to interview, here's the things that you need to start thinking about and the questions you need to be able to answer. And so he was very instrumental in guiding, how I prepared for that. And then obviously anytime I had questions and stuff, he was instrumental in helping with that too. And he's a CISO at one of the larger, banks in the Dallas Fort Worth area. So, that's the thing about TechAllies. I'll just jump right to that.
Yeah.
The people that I've met through TechAllies, and I've been involved in TechAllies for, I don't know, 8 or 9 years. I don't remember exactly. And what was fascinating to me and resonated with me is the fact that there's a personal connection with so many of them. I still have very, very close friends from TechAllies. Obviously, Tricia and Karen are good examples that we socialize outside of technology and business and career and such like that. And they've been so helpful in many cases where, if I need something, I just call somebody up and we have that resource available to us. I was also always impressed with the charitable nature of the organization in that it's really focused on, besides that community, developing, raising money for charitable organizations.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just about doing business. It was about doing business and being able to give back with the mentorship programs that go on and things like that. I have a person that I mentored, I don't know, many years ago, 5 or 6, 7 years ago or something like that, who I'm still in contact with. He still reaches out from time to time. How's things going? What's going on? He's over as a VP at Goldman Sachs now and doing great. And, so those are important long-term relationships. You mentioned Alan. Alan's a very good friend that's been around for years and years and years. So that's where TechAllies has been different than many other organizations. Now, Karen and Tricia obviously have a different vision too, and out of that, there's been the development of relationships not just with peer CISOs or peer CIOs, but the vendors come into it understanding that this is it's not a sales opportunity, it's a relationship opportunity. And that's a huge difference because I've told vendors for years, if you want me to think about you when I need something, then you need to think about me first and develop a relationship with me first. The first question out of your mouth cannot be, do you want to see our product? Because my answer is going to be no. And then usually if it was in writing, they get the immediate block. Because why? So TechAllies has taken the perspective and educated the vendors that that's what the relationship is about too.
I think you've said so many good things there that I would resonate with. And I was sharing with you before the recording rather, my first experience. And now on this podcast recording, I've done this every single time. So I'll do the shorter version. But Alan was the first tech executive that I met through TechAllies. I'm a personal friend of Tricia and her family. Karen, I'm getting to know more and more as time goes on, who's also a lovely lady as well. The number one common theme that I've heard from everybody I've interviewed, as well, I have a feeling, those I will be interviewing, is the use of friendship. And I've noticed that it becomes more than just a networking, like, oh, what are you up to? What's new? How can we help each other? It's more like, hey, how's the family?
Yep.
How are your children? What are you guys up to? Hey, do you want to go travel, together next summer? It's all these like amazing personal connections, the relationship, and then it's work. And then it's like, hey, how can we work together? How can I say, hey, I know this person. I think you should know them.
Sure.
And I think you're the first person to do this, but you nailed it with the vendors. And that was actually, I didn't realize it until you just said this, but my time at Alan's house, the first time, maybe a year ago now, you couldn't tell who the vendors were and who the tech executives were. And that didn't hit me until just now. And I think that's because the vendors, like you said, know and respect where they're at and know and respect that, hey, we're here to build a relationship and then work comes from that, which is the way it should be. I enjoy the friendship I have with Trish, and I enjoy being able to, get up or get together with her family. My kids play with her kids. I think that her son, rather, that's phenomenal. But you nailed it there, that even the vendors who come to the table, they know and respect what this is. And I think it's so different than any other networking group I've ever experienced.
Yeah. Yeah. Trish is my sister from another mister. So.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Well, that's great. And I appreciate you sharing that. Honestly, just in your time speaking about TechAllies, I think we covered quite a bit of the questions I was going to bring up here. So I'm going to end the TechAllies section on this one. Because you did mention the charitable side of TechAllies. And for those who don't know, TechAllies has a lot of desire and activity in investing into the future leaders in the tech space. Really the future leaders in general, but tech space given the area that they play in. So when you are thinking about that next generation, and if they happen to be listening to this podcast, what's one of those pieces of advice that you're like, man, I really wish somebody would have told me this when I was their age? Yeah. And it could be around, finding those allies, finding places like TechAllies. It could be about the meaningful relationships. It could just be career centric in general. What comes to your mind?
Well, I would start building community, and building within a community is an absolute must. And it kind of goes without saying. But from there, the big advice that I try to give most young people is that, they have to have this curiosity and desire for constant, never-ending improvement. That was a term that was used years and years and years ago with Six Sigma and some other kinds of improvement programs. But that idea of always being out there learning. The mistake I think most people make is that they think they need to do that constant, never-ending improvement only in their area of expertise. And that couldn't be further from the truth, because the fact that they're working in that area and that they're meeting people in that area all the time, they'll know. They will naturally absorb and improve and learn more in their specialty area just because. And where they fail is they don't learn about the other stuff that makes them a good leader. They need to learn about business acumen. They need to sit down with all the different department heads in their company and ask them for orientations. I've done that. I mean, as long as I've been around business and stuff, one of the early things I've done in the first 6 months here is I met with the CFO. Give me an overview of what our financials, how do you look at the financials, and what's our capital position, and what's this and what's that. I met with the loan production chief executive, and tell me about loan production and how does that work here, and the credit risk person, tell me about credit risk and the risk management. So I talk to all these people, and I schedule time for them to orient me to the questions they have and they're asking all the time, so that I can figure out how to ask the same questions to know how to support them. So learn the other stuff, learn marketing, learn sales, learn finance, learn operations. The sales and marketing, most important in my opinion, because the reality is you're always selling. Whether you know it or not, you're always selling. And so you might as well learn the tips and tricks and techniques of sales that makes life easier. And makes it easier for you to sell yourself as you move forward, because that's all we're doing. Not in a bad way. It's just we're trying to influence people by having them hear what we have to say and believe it and want to follow us. That's what leadership's all about. So that's the thing. Learn the other stuff.
That's good. I honestly don't know if I could have asked you to end this any better. I think that's wonderful. Learn the other stuff. I'm gonna actually apply that one as well today. So I don't prep you for this. I don't prep any of my guests for this, but I like to end our podcast with what I call a lightning round. So just laid back. It's fun just to kind of get to know you on a different level. I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. First thing that comes to your mind, that's the answer we want. Sound good?
Okay. Sure.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. Excellent. A book, podcast, or resource rather that has influenced you the most.
I'll say the Four Agreements, the book, The
Yep,
Four Agreements, and the other I would add is Extreme Leadership.
that's
I'm
a good
sorry,
one too.
yeah, I think that's called Extreme Leadership or Extreme Ownership. I forget, but
Extreme ownership.
yeah,
Yeah.
those two
Yes.
are
Is
primaries. Yeah.
being a military man. Are you familiar? And maybe it's extreme ownership. I don't know if I'm getting these two mixed up. It's a submarine captain.
No,
Um,
I haven't read. I think I know the one you're talking about, but this is the Extreme Ownership
is
is the SEAL,
Jocko? Yeah,
Jocko, the
Jocko.
SEAL leaders.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. I knew I was getting them
yeah,
mixed up, but that's an incredible one
it
too.
is.
Believe it or not, Echelon Front is located in not my neighborhood, but my town that I live in.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, that's a really cool company.
Cool.
Anyways, yes, Extreme Ownership, great book, great
And then
one.
Four
I
Agreements.
w- yes, Four Agreements. I think I can visualize that book. I don't know if I have it, but I'm going to check it out and
Cool.
I'll do that one. Another one, just because we are talking about it. I wish. Oh, turn this ship around.
Ah,
That's the submarine one. So I highly
I'll look for
recommend that
that
one.
one. Yeah.
Is yeah, I think you'll really easy read,
Cool.
really good. All right, cool. What's one bucket list item you have already checked off?
Oh, well, I mean, I jumped out of airplanes, rode motorcycles, fly planes. So anything adrenaline related, I think I might have already checked them off.
Love it. That's good. Well, on the flip side, then, what is one goal you're still chasing?
I still want to dive the Great Barrier Reef
Ooh.
and see the great whites in the Great Barrier Reef. Do a cage dive. Yeah.
That would be wonderful. And then finally, in one sentence, what does Tech Allies represent to you?
TechAllies, and I hesitate to use the word because it's sometimes overused. Represents a professional family
Mhm.
that I don't see the same in any other place. And so they're people that I can rely on, that I know will always have my back, that will always be looking out for my best interest while I look out for theirs.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you, Patrick. I really do appreciate your time and I respect your time. And thanks for sharing a little bit about who you are and what Tech Allies is for you. If our listeners would like to connect with you, what's one of the best ways to do so?
Yeah, usually the best is just LinkedIn, and they can get me there. That's probably the easiest and the best. And hey, it was great. I enjoyed talking to you. It's been an honor, and I always appreciate when people are willing to listen to me.
Yeah, that's what I do best. I like to listen. So thank you again. Well, for everybody else, this has been a conversation with Patrick, a Tech Allies podcast. And if you've enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to follow along and continue the conversation with the Tech Allies community. I'm Billy Mitchell, and I'll see you next time.